Hello and welcome back to BIZ Inbox. I'm Em Burnham.
And I'm Sarah Davidson, and today we're diving into some workplace dilemmas that'll make you question everything. Like, should you be performing interesting at work? You know, that exhausting dance of staying across business news and sitting in meetings you don't belong in just to seem relevant?
Plus, we're investigating a TikTok conspiracy theory about job application. So apparently there's a secret window of time where you should be applying, and if you get it wrong, then apparently resumes disappear into the void forever.
Oh my God, we love a TikTok conspiracy theory.
We do.
But first, burnout and boundaries won't come as a surprise, but I was blown away by some of these statistics. So, according to a new study conducted by Microsoft for their 2025 Work Trend Index annual report, the infinite workday is officially here and it's completely out of control. You know that feeling when work just seeps into everything, like the early mornings, the late nights, the weekends, and suddenly you just can't tell where your job ends and your actual life begins?
Yep.
It turns out that we're not actually imagining that. So here is how wild things have gotten. Em, I'm going to throw some numbers at you.
I'm ready.
40% of people are checking emails before sunrise because apparently 6 a.m. is the new 9 a.m. Ew. We're drowning in 117 emails daily. That's basically one every 4 minutes during work hours.
Oh my God.
Teams messages are even worse, 150 pings a day, because why let anyone have a moment's peace? God forbid a woman wants to have a little bit of moment of silence.
God forbid we want a lunch break.
God forbid we want to rest. Our most productive hours, so between 9 and 11 and then 1 and 3, are completely hijacked by meetings. So when exactly are we supposed to do the actual work? Meetings after 8 p.m. are becoming the norm. Sorry, what happened to dinner and Netflix?
Yeah.
And by 10 p.m., a third of us are back in our inboxes. So the result, rest isn't a given anymore. It's something we have to actively fight for. And nearly half of employees, so 48%, and over half of leaders, being 52%, describe their workday as complete chaos. So when there is literally no space to focus, everything feels scattered. Honestly, we're not okay with this being the new normal.
It's actually, these stats are so insane reading them and like you reading them out. But I feel like I personally tick so many of these boxes. Like
Same.
emails and Slacks are the first thing I wake up at 6 a.m. and they're the first thing I immediately check. I do definitely get 117 emails daily, if not more. Same with pings on Slack. I think the only thing that's a bit different for me, and that's probably because of the type of job I have, is that I don't actually have a lot of meetings. Like my quote unquote meetings like are recording sessions, which is basically doing my job. So that's really fine. But even after work, just so many like I'm just constantly thinking about work. Like it's now become my baseline for everything. Whereas it used to be just my baseline would be home, family, hanging out with friends, and then work was an addition to that. And I don't know how, I have a feeling this changed after COVID. I feel like during COVID, it felt like we were just in this lull of just not sure what's going to happen with our job. So many people lost their jobs. So many people are trying to find a job. And now the market feels like it hasn't changed. And we have talked about this before on the podcast where so many people are still trying so hard to find a job and not getting it, that when you have your job, and we talked about job hugging, like people holding onto their jobs and staying longer in the work in their same workplaces. Like I think it's changed from like 2 years to 4 years because we want to just hold on to the jobs we already have. And I think a side effect to that is working overtime to just like prove yourself and show that you're committed. And now we're just in this phase where we haven't stopped working.
Yeah. And I also think that we've embraced during COVID, in a good way, flexibility of work setups, but with that comes a fluidity that makes boundaries really hard to distinguish.
Yeah.
So
because you're making your workplace in your own home.
Yeah, which is a real positive in some ways, but then I think this is the flip side of that, that if you don't monitor those boundaries really carefully, it does suddenly subsume everything about your identity. And that's really hard because how do you scale it back? You want some of the flexibility to work from home, but not for it to take over your entire life.
Yeah, I mean, this is like such depressing stats, but I do feel like it's slightly changing now. Like, I feel like the more we become aware of the stats and how we fit into the statistic ourselves, like immediately when I saw these stats last night, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not going to check Slack or email. And I didn't need to. And I came into work this morning, and then the first thing I did when I came into work was check my email before I even checked it at home. And I haven't done that in like years. And literally nothing happened. Like, the world was not on fire. It was so fine.
And even if it was, it's like not my job.
It's not my job. I'm not saving lives, guys. I mean, I'm saving your lives and your workplace lives, but I'm not saving any other lives.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, I feel like you've got an email from Zara to save her life.
Oh my God,
what has she said to
Zara. We have an email from Zara. We're going to try to save her life. So Zara says, should I be doing extra work just to seem quote unquote interesting at work? I'm talking about staying across business news, following the economy, sitting in on financial meetings I don't really need to be in, sending relevant articles to team members, and throwing general knowledge into conversations to seem well informed. It feels performative, but I worry that if I don't do this stuff, I'll just blend into the background and miss out on opportunities. What tips and tricks do you guys use to stay relevant and interesting without it feeling like a second job?
Oh, that's a really hard one. But I definitely feel like if it is starting to feel performative at your end, then it's not going to be sustainable. It sounds like it's a chore that does feel like an extra amount of work. And I feel like there are other ways to be interesting and different and stand out other than engaging in things that you don't find interesting and contributing something just for the sake of contributing it. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be following the economy or sitting in on financial meetings. Like I absolutely understand where that's coming from. And I think there is a little bit of work homework that you do have to do to stay current in your particular workplace. But I think you can draw the line at performative interestingness. I think there are definitely other ways to show your personality without it feeling so forced.
Yeah, I think, Zara, like the outcome you want from this is to seem well-informed and quote unquote interesting. And I don't think that's the way you do that. I think there is a place to do exactly what you said, Sarah, the homework from work. And I think that's either if you're completely new to like a job, and by I mean new to a job, I mean something that's completely different to what you were doing before, and you need to like get on the same page and learn. I remember when I worked at Forbes magazine in Australia, that was so new to me, like understanding like media, but more from like people like who are investors and bankers and like the RBA rates. Like I had to do extra work to get my head around that so I could be like the best social media editor for that role, because it was just such different media to Mamma Mia. And that was like something that I had to do because I wanted to excel in that role. Another reason that I feel like you take on this extra work is if you just really, really are interested in the industry you're working in. When I was in my audience dev role, I did a lot of extra work in terms of like looking at case studies and looking at trends and trends reporting, because I was just so interested in that work, and I wanted to kind of see how I could implement new ideas into the business model that we have. And that's just something that comes naturally when you're just really, really interested and passionate about your job. If you force it, it doesn't really work out, because then it does feel like extra homework and it does feel like a second job. So if you're actually not interested in doing that, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I think there are many other ways that you could show parts of your personality that make you interesting. And I also feel like you can tell when someone is talking about something that they don't really engage with. Like you can tell if you're just kind of reciting the facts, or you're not inviting further conversation because you're not genuinely passionate about the subject matter that you're talking about. You could strike up a conversation with someone at work about something totally different. It could be long distance running, if that's your passion, and you can seek out other people in the business who like the same thing. It could be your pet, your fur baby. It could be a sport that you play. It could be a travel experience that you had. There are so many other ways or topics that could prove your interesting nature rather than forcing an interest in something you're not actually interested in. And I think that would make you exhausted. genuinely exhausted doing all this extra work in something you don't love.
That's such good advice. Like literally just find the hobbies that you love and talk about them.
Yeah, and I think even if it's not something that everyone else shares, I love listening to other people talk about stuff I don't know about. I find that really interesting. So don't like double guess what other people are going to find worthy of listening to.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, our next question came from Mia and she DM'd us. You can always DM us your questions. You can remain completely anonymous if you want to. You can DM us on Instagram or TikTok. We love our DMs. So this one says, I saw a TikTok that completely changed how I think about job applications. Apparently, if you apply within the first 24 to 48 hours, your resume gets buried under hundreds of other applications and are never seen by a human. It all goes through ATS filters, scanning for keywords, then recruiters skim through emails super fast. So when's actually the best time to apply for jobs? Should I be following up on LinkedIn or trying to get referrals? I heard referral candidates are 4 times more likely to get hired, but how do I actually make sure my name gets seen and doesn't just disappear into the void? This is a big question.
Ooh, I mean, we love a TikTok theory, and I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes these sort of more transparent social media platforms have allowed really important statistics that we need to know about to come to the surface. Having said that, I'm a little bit skeptical about this being a all or nothing rule.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes there will be recruitment agencies that do run, necessarily run resumes through sorting and filtering programs, and, there will be some sort of process. But I think you would be really disadvantaging yourself inaccurately if you sat on your resume every single time until after 48 hours just because you thought this was the case. I don't think you could safely say that every single job and every company that's advertising for jobs is going to do it this way. In fact, if anything, I feel like the recruiter might be sitting down eager to see who applies first and perhaps have more time at the start allocated to the recruitment process to read through the first few that come through. And if everyone else has seen this TikTok and is waiting to apply at 48 hours, no one applies in the first 24 hours. Maybe that is the time to submit it because you will be the first to get your resume in the door. I do think that that's probably a little bit still to be proven before you would actually modify your behavior based on this.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with you. And also as someone who has hired people, like that has not been the case for me. Like I look at every application, I'm like, oh my God, this loser applied in 24 hours. Crazy. Get out. Bin.
Yeah, I don't think there would be many businesses who are automatically ruling you out because of that. In fact, I doubt there would be really any. And it's sort of like you just get to a point where it almost feels like dating, where you're like, do I reply now or do I wait? It's just like, just don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Once you've perfected your application and you're really happy that it's as strong as it can be, let it do the talking and submit it when you're ready.
Yeah. I think that's such good advice. With the question about referrals, I would say that I think it's also dependent on the company that you're applying for and how important referrals are. I know for me, whenever I applied for jobs, it's usually like the last thing that they ask for is for referrals. And that is more just like, I guess, to check that I was normal. It wasn't very much about asking about my like work ethic, because it was like also I feel like for me especially, it was like my first job, so my referrals were from like a lot of like work experience I had from different people across different industries, so it wasn't someone who could actually vouch for like the job I was about to do. So I think depending on the company, like some referrals are about the job, some are just about like you as a person, and but I do think that they do help. It's like gets you over the finish line.
Yeah, and I also think that if there's not just someone giving you like a written reference, but they're actually going to hook you up or sort of personally go and deliver your resume if you do have a connection within the company. So for example, if one of your best friends knew that Mamma Mia was advertising for a particular role, they would of course go through the normal channel. But if there was a chance that you could put in a good word or make sure that yours does get seen, I always think use as many things at your disposal as you can.
Yeah.
And you never know, like sometimes it might make no difference, but on the off chance that it does, and there's been thousands and thousands and thousands of applications submitted, give yourself the best chance that you can, because again, the person on the other end reading it is a human and they do need things that are going to grab their attention.
Yeah.
And a direct referral from a friend or someone who can vouch for you does make it a lot easier for the recruiter to go, they're trustworthy, someone has actually put their reputation on the line.
Yeah, that's true.
To vouch for you. I think it does carry more weight. So, and I also feel like in some jobs, people will ignore, they'll treat everyone equal. But yeah, if you do have someone who can put your resume forward or someone senior, definitely use it. Yeah. Use as much as you can to support your application if it's there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Good luck, Mia. Just make sure you apply. Don't wait. Just apply.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is from a DM from Tessa. And she says, my boss has picked me as her favorite and it's making my life hell. She gives me all the special projects, constantly invites me to lunch, and overshares personal stuff. My teammates think I'm the teacher's pet and are getting frosty. She even asks me to cover for her hangovers and vents about other staff. I'm scared if I set boundaries she'll turn on me, but I'm losing friends at work. How do I handle being the unwanted favorite? Oh my God.
Oh, that's hard because I love being the favorite.
I love being the favorite too, but oh my God.
But I want to be everyone's favorite. I wouldn't want to lose everyone else.
Yeah, but also like I'd feel so uncomfortable if my boss asked me to cover for her hangover. Like I do it for a coworker, but I feel like a boss is a different level.
Yeah, and also if it's making everyone else frosty towards you, I'd be like, you're my people. Like we're the minions. Yeah. We're all on the same level. Why do you hate me? Oh, that's really, really difficult. And I think it comes back to a similar theme that we've touched on a couple of times in previous episodes about the power imbalance that comes with not wanting to set boundaries with somebody who has authority over you and who can influence your role, which is a really, really difficult situation to be in. And I'm honestly not even sure what my advice would be, because you're right. You don't want to piss them off because they're your boss, but I'm not actually even sure what I would do.
I think that she has to set boundaries because it is impacting her work. And I feel like this is getting into more of like a very unsustainable and unethical workplace relationship. So I think she has to set boundaries, and her boss might turn on her, which is what she says. But I feel like if that happens, and that's just super unprofessional from the boss, and I think if that happens and that escalates, then that's something that you need to bring HR into. But I feel like set the boundaries, see what happens. Nothing might happen. The boss might just back off a little, and then it's more of a professional relationship, which I feel like is Tessa's ideal outcome. But I feel like if it does get nasty and her boss starts acting unprofessional, then she can escalate that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think you can probably also manage part of it in the way that you deliver the boundary. It can be gradual and gentle rather than an abrupt confrontation of, no, I will not cover for your hangover.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you can do it in a really gentle way, and maybe over time you can build up that boundary so it doesn't feel abrupt, and so the blowback on you is a little bit less. Maybe. Yeah. And then you can test the waters and see, are they going to respond well or not? Yeah. But
decline some lunches. Decline some lunches. Say, I'm really busy with work that you're making me do as well.
Yeah.
So I can't come to lunch.
Oh, that's a toughie though.
And then just start hanging out with like your coworkers, I think.
Yeah.
More than your manager. But good luck, Tessa. Oh my God.
Yeah, good luck.
Such a shitty situation.
I know.
Well, that is actually all we have for this week. Please keep the questions flowing. There's a link in our show notes for you to do so. Anonymous submissions are also perfect. If you're spiraling about work stuff but you don't want your name on it, that is so fine. We love the anonymous stuff. We will be back next week to solve more career chaos. You can also follow us on Instagram at Biz by Mamma Mia and TikTok. We are at Biz by Mamma Mia on there as well. And sign up to our newsletter. There's a link in our show notes. This episode of Biz was produced by Sophie Campbell with audio production by Leah Porges. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.